Yeah. Okay. So welcome. Here
Thank you.
we're gonna start in Sefer Sichos over here, Parshas Vayeitzei, because that's what this week's parsha is. Before that, I just want to make two things clear. First of all, excuse me, turn that off. First of all, I want to, I guess, express my some of my goals for this class and share that with you, and hope that you can share it with that. There's when I guess one of the big challenges that we face today is the lack of context and within content. So which means a lot of times we'll have context without the content, or the content without out of context. And I don't need, I don't need to like give you any examples because you probably have a ton of them. But basically the idea is that I really want to bring content and context to the Rebbe's words, specifically the Sikha that we're learning today. So this Sikha was said, Parshas Vayeitzei Tes Kislev Tafshin and Beis, which was actually several months before Chafsai Adar, which was when the Rebbe had a stroke. So I just think it's very important. And also every Shabbos, for this about a year and a half, 2 years or something, the Rebbe would, the Chayzrim would write down notes every Shabbos of what the Rebbe said, and then they would put it together, and then the Rebbe would edit it for publishing every week. So this was put together in Sefer Sichos. So all of some Likutei Sichos, some Amarim, whatever, some of them are edited, some of them are not edited. But the idea is that it's important to realize that these Sichos that we're learning are 100% edited by the Rebbe. And I think that's an important context to realize. And also, I'm just going to ask two questions before we start. Number one, I just think we want to be asking ourselves, like, in this Sikha, the Rebbe speaks about tzaddikim, it speaks about tzaddikim's life. It speaks about, the Sikha speaks about, obviously, Yaakov, Moshe Rabbeinu, the Middle Rebbe, whose yahrzeit is this week. All these different tzaddikim, and obviously, it is one other little context piece is that the Rebbe's, each Rebbe, as the Rebbe explained many times, that each Rebbe is a Mamala Makim of the previous Rebbe. So, and obviously, the Rebbe is Mamala Makom, which means he fills up the space, which means he's as great as that Rebbe plus. So that's an important distinction, and also Moshe Rabbeinu and Yaakov Avinu, obviously. So it's just, my question is, what is the Rebbe saying about himself in these sichas, in this specific ones? And then what is the Rebbe saying about us? And what is the Rebbe saying about our connection? Like our connection to the Rebbe. Okay, so those are, I think, three questions that we want to be asking as we go along. And the other thing is, obviously, these are very much connected to Mashiach. So I feel like if we answer these questions, what does it say about, what is the Rebbe saying about himself? What is the Rebbe saying about?
I hear you freezing, Connie. Is it just for me or is it for everybody?
How are we doing?
Yeah, for me also.
Okay.
I thought it was me, but I hear it and I don't.
Yeah,
okay,
it's freezing up. Yeah.
Is that, yeah, I actually saw that it's unstable. How am I now?
Now we hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat that again. I think something that we want to think about as we go through these sichos is what is the Rebbe saying about himself? What is the Rebbe saying about us? And what is the Rebbe saying about our connection? And I believe that if we answer those questions in whatever way, in whatever context, we can really get the answer to what Mashiach means to ourselves. Hi, Bracha. So excited to have you here. So I'm just going to mute whoever. Okay, and feel free. And so that's the first introduction. I think we want to look at that. And then feel free to chime in at any point if you have any questions or comments. And so I'm just gonna like a little bit summarize, but mostly I really want to read inside. So if you have the Sikha, if you have Sefer Sichos Nun Beis, you're more than welcome to grab it. Otherwise, I'm happy to read it. You're welcome to listen. No issue for any of that. So basically, this week's parsha So obviously, especially in this time when the Rebbe is speaking very much about Mashiach, we're going to make a lot of connections. So we'll see how many connections we'll actually get to, but by way of introduction, we'll say that this week is Tes Kislev, which is tomorrow, which is the Elemental Rebbe's birthday and Yahrzeit, which is Tes Kislev. And then we also have the Parsha of Vayeitzei this week, this Shabbos, and then this Shabbos we also read during Mincha Vayishlach. So that we have the Metzler Rebbe's birth, and then we also have, if we're talking about the Metzler Rebbe being born and passed away the same day, then that's very much connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was born and passed away Zayin Adar, right? So we'll talk about that, and then we're going to talk about how all of these things, the most important part is how this is going to teach us something very important about the time that we're living in right now, which is the Geula and Mashiach that is going to happen, or that is happening right now as we speak. So, and also about the idea that we have to be makabel pnei Mashiach Tikin, which means we have to be ready to receive the face of Mashiach, literally. So I'm just going to jump. Oh yeah. So basically the idea is, so when we speak about the Yahrzeit of a tzaddik, it's obviously the conclusion of his life, and the Chazal say specifically about Moshe Rabbeinu, who was born and passed away on the same day, just like the Mitzvah Rebbe, Ben Mea V'Esrim Shana Anechi Hayayim, right? That's what Moshe Rabbeinu says in Parshas Vayeitzei. And then the Gemara says, Ma Talmud Lamer Hayayim, Hayayim Milai Yemesh Ushnaisai, Lalamdacha, Shakash Baruch Hu Yeshiv Umamali, Shnaisehem Shal Tzadikim, Miyayim Layam, and Mechadesh Chedesh, Shenamer, Esmespar Yamecha Amale. So, what does this mean? According to the Gemara, we learn from this that Hashem sits and counts the years of the tzaddikim from day to day, from month to month, and he fills up every single one of those days, right? So obviously that means that a tzaddik, his days are full, but somehow there's something about like almost like rounding off and like finishing up and like putting the whole thing in like in a package. It's almost like Hashem, like, you know, maybe like manicures it or whatever into something beautiful. It's interesting because the Rebbe uses the word kailachtika, which means round. So he like rounds off the years in everything that, what's it called, in the years of the tzaddik.
Honey, what paragraph are you in?
I'm actually just going to start with Gimel. This is just introduction. And would you like to read?
Maybe if you want to start with Gimel, you said?
Yeah, I'm just going to finish off this thought and then I'm going to ask you to read. Is that good?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So basically we have a question because obviously the Shleimus of a tzaddik is Baruch Nias. So if the idea that Hashem fills his days, it obviously has to be something to do with his Gashmias, because a tzaddik obviously does have complete and Ruchnias. So we just need some clarity on what that means that Hashem fills the days of tzaddikim. And sorry, I just want to clarify that I want to, obviously we want to talk about this idea about tzaddikim, but I want to definitely have a nice amount of time to talk about Yaakov, which is like in a few SES. So let's start with Gimel. Do we have any questions until now? Comments? Okay, go ahead.
I have it in the Hebrew. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
And it starts with Gimel. You want me to start with Gimel?
Yeah, please.
Okay. V'yesh lamer shlemus avodas hatzadik hi b'sha shashlemus haruchnias mishtakefes Gam b'shlemus gashmias. Shlemus b'zman. Okay, I didn't understand that. That the complete
Yeah.
avodah of a tzaddik is in the time that he's complete in ruchnias, meaning like his life actually finishes when he finishes his ruchnias avodah. Is that what it's saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Shlemus b'zman avodasa b'shanim v'yamim hagashmim shela v'lashen chazal yodei Hashem yimei tamimim kishem shehen tamimim kach shenosam tamimim. So I guess there's a pasuk that says that Hashem knows the days of the pure ones, just like they're complete, then also their years are complete. So I guess for a tzaddik, their years really reflect the completion of their life. Correct?
Yes. Yeah, and
Um,
also the rabbis bring also gashmias, not only ruchnias.
What do you mean? Like their Gashmi's life?
Yeah. But do you want to continue? Continue reading?
Sure.
Thank you.
V'hatam lazehu, the reason for this is kevan shetachas v'shlemus havoda the Torah and mitzvah shel Yehudi sharei zoy avodas tzaddik tachas v'shlemus havoda. So for sure for a tzaddik, they're okay. So the reason for this reflection of complete spiritual life in a physical years is because Kivan shetachas v'shlemus ha'avoda the Torah and mitzvahs shel Yehudi. Okay, so for sure, a tzaddik is their whole life is Torah and mitzvahs. Mitvates bazeh. It's expressed in this.
Yeah.
Shivarer v'yizakech es gufa hagashmi, to like purify and elevate refine his physical body, but often she'ein shem chalakim nifradim v'chayav she'aleim ein avodas Hashem shalom mages chas v'shalom. So there's no part of his life that is not connected with his avodas Hashem. Ein shem hefsek u'fered shem hafrade bein nishmas l'gufa bein ruchniasa l'gashmiasa. This sounds a lot like Malchus. For a tzaddik, there's no separation between his ruchnias and his gashmias.
Yeah.
Alakol hapratim b'chayav chadurim berucha shel nishmasa v'haruchnias shela. All the parts of his life is like, how do you translate that?
Integrated?
Integrated with his neshama and with his ruchnias. Ad asher agashmias nasa tefela uvatla leneshama v'leruchnias. Until the point that their gashmias becomes kind of secondary to the neshama. Ostim nafsham ikar v'gufam tafel.
It's like Paraklamid Bays in Tanya, right?
I know. So yeah, I have a question about that. But
Yeah.
often shekol hagashmias he kamo kli v'lavash va'ad kamo merkava shemish shakefes v'mevates shlemus avodas harachnes. So it's so much until like his body becomes just like a vessel and a kli and
Yeah.
and a
A
garment.
mirror.
A mirror. Where do you see mirror?
Spiegelt. But spiegelt up. I don't know how they did it in Hebrew. I didn't hear it. Mishta Tefes is not really.
So my question was, I remember asking this on the Malchus chat earlier, like about the body becoming secondary to the soul and kind of just an expression of the soul. It seems like what we've been learning, and I guess what we're trying to do is learn this, but I'm curious, I always thought the body is higher than the soul. And so I guess that confuses me. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hi, Rachel. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think it's I think it's all like within context. So there's
Yeah,
different
hello?
like, yeah.
It's
You want to
Bracha.
answer that question? Hi.
Okay, I can't put it, yeah. It's just,
No.
I have to, someone's sleeping, so I have to run around
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so basically what I understand, we'll see how it turns out later on. It might be that first of all, the Beinoni has a different avodah, and that's why the Beinoni is the main thing. That's number one. Number two is, what I understand this is saying is that your neshama is your essence, and when your body reflects, is sort of like something that reflects your essence. So it's like batal to neshama, but it's not batal. It's like everything you do is allowing your essence to manifest through that. So like Gashmias is no more like food. It's like something special. It's like it's shining. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm understanding from this. It's not really batal, but it's sort of like allowing the light that's there to shine versus it's being obscured. Does it make sense?
It's almost like the Gashmias is, you're using the Gashmias, but it's not that the Gashmias is secondary or the body is secondary, is that the purpose of it
Right.
for Gashmias becomes secondary.
Right. So like, let's say you're an
that
artist.
you
That's
see
your
it
soul.
as spiritual.
Your soul is that you're an artist, and your paintings are reflecting the holiness of your soul. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like that kind of idea. Right? But at the same time, we don't know where this is going. It could also be, but as this is what I'm understanding, at least from a tzaddik, that everything is just shining godliness through it. It's not just like what's Gashmias has a klipa, right? So you can't really tell that it's holy, but when he uses it, somehow it looks holy. It's like on Shabbos, good food looks holy. During the week, doesn't really do anything. So that's shining through. That light is shining through. This is what I'm understanding, but let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
Right, but
you.
it is confusing. I understand, Sarah, that so many times you like read in Chassidus and you see like polar opposites,
Right.
trying to explain the same idea. So it could
but
get
let's see
very
where it goes. A lot of
confusing.
times the Rebbe says, but it's different now or whatever. Let's see. Yeah, just
Okay.
let's. But at least we can
Right.
keep that in mind.
Are we on page 158?
On my thing, it's 88. I have 2 volumes, so.
I'm in
I'm on
88 too, but
135.
I have the Dvar Malcha, so it depends
Yeah,
on
I
what
also
you have.
have
I don't know.
I have the
What?
Dharma.
How do I know?
Okay, Parshas Vayeitzei, Tes Kislev, right? And then we're halfway through Ice Gimel.
Yeah, this is Zion Kislev.
We're in the middle of Ice Gimel.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess I'm in the wrong one. This is Zion Kislev.
Yeah, this is Tes
I don't know
Kislev.
if I
This is
have the right
Tes
one.
Kislev. Parshas Vayeitzei.
Okay. Yeah, I just want
That's
to.
fine. I'll just follow along.
I just want to say one thing. Like, it definitely, all these things need to be like within context, and I think that I'm just going to mute all you guys if you don't mind. Unmute yourself at any point if you feel like you want to say something, please. I think it's also just like the context that we're looking at, and I think it's important. Context constantly changes. Like as a mother, obviously, like, there are things that are like 100% no or 100% yes or whatever within whatever your perspective is or whatever the situation is. And I think especially in Chassidus, where everything is in words that we really cannot understand, and our Rebbeim tried very, very hard to try to give us a perspective and a context for this incredibly high content. And so we are going to run into these questions, and we're going to keep on asking them. So thank you for asking. And hopefully we'll get some more clarity as we move along. So thank you. Go ahead. Want to continue reading, Sarah?
If you want me to.
Sure.
Okay. Kalamar, I don't think I've opened this. I have notes in this book, but I haven't opened it in probably 12 years. Shame. Kalamar, afal pi shechai hatzadik enam chayim b'sarim ki im chayim ruchniim. So, afal pi, even though that the life of a tzaddik is not physical life, but their ruchnius life, Hare shlemas avodasahi כאשר החיים הרוחניים חודרים ומאירים גם בסוף חייו הבשריים. The complete avodah of a tzaddik is when his ruchnius life is like shining into also his physical life. Ad shechayav habesarim heim b'bchinas kli, until his physical life is like a kli. V'yaser mizeh hemshach v'hispashtus shel hachayim haruchniim. The continuation of his, like the expression of his ruchnius life. Heim misachadim im hachayim haruchniim ba'ofen shehem nasim davar echad mamish. I think that maybe is a typo right there. Do you see? I don't know if you have the same words, but I have hemshach v'hispashtus shel hachayim haruchniim heim misachadim im hachayim haruchniim. It must. I think it must be gashmias, no?
No,
No?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I don't think it's a typo. Yeah, everything gets
Yeah, it should be
integrated.
Gashmias, I would assume.
Right?
That it
Oh,
would say Chaim HaGashmias.
right.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I don't believe that it's a typo.
So how does that make sense? It says that
Let's see.
the
Let's hold on.
hemshach v'hispashtus shel hachayim haruchniim heim misachadim im hachayim haruchniim ba'ofen shehem nasim davar echad mamash. Adam echad tzaddik sheshlemosa haruchniim b'chayim haruchniim misbates u'mishtakefes b'meloa b'shlemus gashmias b'chayim b'sarim. See, here's the gashmias here. Ba'ofen
Yeah.
sheb'chayim habesarim ein shem davar miyoser v'gam lo chaser davar v'lo pachos v'lo yoser l'gabe hashlemus b'chayim haruchniim. החיים הבשרים שלו כל ימיו ושנותיו הגשמיים הם המשך והשתקפות של חייו הרוחניים. So his complete physical life is just complete an expression of his ruchnius life. It's really beautiful to read this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, this is what we talk about all the time in this group of like that, not the separation of physical and spiritual, of trying to just, I mean, here
absolutely.
it's talking about it as a tzaddik.
Yeah, so let's continue here. V'adraba dafke durch dem, was die Schleimus kommt aus auf and Gashmis wird aufgetan and Eloi afilu legabi Schleimus ruchnis ital atzmai. So more than that, the completion through the physical work brings an elevation to the ruchnius work. And the river is Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yeshiv, and so that's one thing. And then on top of that, Hakadosh Baruch Hu Yeshiv Malish Sam Shal Tzadik Miyam Liyayim, while the Shleimus Havayda von Tzadik nimmt durch und spiegelt sich ab in Shleimus und in Zer Gashmias, bei Tim zu Zer Shleimus Ruchnius. Was Geder Ha'Eilam Hazah Gashmi besteht von Zman und Makayim, das teilt sich in hold on a sec. Das teilt sich in Yamim. Okay, so basically Hashem fills up the tzaddik stays, right? And what does that mean? How does he fill up the tzaddik stays? He fills up the tzaddik stays, the gashmis, the physical parts of the tzaddik stays, as it is matim. How do you say? As it is parallel, let's say, to the physical, the spiritual work that he's done over the years, right? And it's specifically broken down into Yemei Shana, right? Which means the days of the week, the days of the year, and the months, and etc. Okay, so I'm actually going to skip this, continuing about this whole thing about the tzaddik, because I really want to get to the story about Yaakov. So I would highly recommend you go through this I'll be happy to make time later to go through this with you as well. So I'm just going to continue here. Eis Daled, which is page 137. Der Bier in dem wird man verstehen behektem hashachas mit Parshas Hashavua, Vayeitzei und Vayeshlach. Okay, so we're going to look at Parshas Vayeitzei and Vayeshlach. Vayeitzei is the parsha that we read this week, and Vayeshlach is the parsha that we read in the afternoon, Shabbos afternoon during Mincha. So we're going to look at obviously the story of Yaakov, and their Ikar Sipur van Avaidas Yaakov Vina Batera is nit in Parshas Taldes, the Yaakov is given the vase out of the Eretz Yisrael, Varshava, nor Parshas Vayeitzei, who was Retzach Vayeitzei Yaakov Varshava Ve'elchorna. When Mitzias Yaakov from Beersheba came Haran Af Shal Makaim to Lavan Harami. Mit die Ati alle and Yana Bel Yirtzayim, verbunden mit Ayirid Hachi Gedela, was der Far hat Yaakov Merg hat. So the whole story of Yaakov is not in Parshas Taldes, it's actually in Parshas Vayeitzei when he goes to Haran, which is Haran Af Hashem, which is the anger, the fury of Hashem, which is an expression of all the terrible things that were going on in Haran, where Yaakov was going to. So when we don't talk about Yaakov as he is in Eretz Yisrael, the Holy Land, in his father's home, in the land that Hashem gave them. Most of his work happens that we talk about is when he's in Haran, which is the terrible, and we're Lavan Harami, the terrible Russia Lavan, who that's where we're getting all of Yaakov, the juiciest part of Yaakov's life is there. And even more than that, Haran, one second, Nachmar Dafka and Haran had Yaakov, yeah, so this is what I want to say, that even in this play, in this deep, dark, deceitful place, Haran, that is where Yaakov got married, and he actually had the majority of his 12 children. He had 11 out of the 12 Shvatim in Haran, right? Yosef was, when he had Yosef, he decided that he was going to go back because he felt like he had the strength, right? So I feel Lachar was Yaakov hat verendigt sein Arbeit bei Lavan and Haran hat und hat sich bei Umkehren Beis Aviv, wie hat gebeten, V'shafti b'shalom el Beis Avi, und danach angesagt geworden von dem Eibishter Shuv Eretz Avesechem Meladecha. Basically, Yaakov, even after the 14 years of working for Leah and then working for Rachel, he still stayed until it turned to the point where he asked Lavan permission to leave, and also Hashem told him to come to return to the land of his father, or of his fathers, Eretz Yisrael. And instead of following this directive immediately following Hashem to go back to Eretz Yisrael and return, he instead of, right, Hashem says go, Hibzachan, right? We have this caveat, this like detour almost, where Vayeshlach Yaakov Melachim Lefanav El Esav Echav Artzaser Sedei Edom, right? So why is Yaakov not going straight back to Eretz Yisrael? Why is he contending with Esav? Why is this whole thing going on? And Parshas Vayeshlach, right? So we have all the details. So that's basically the theme of both parshas. And so the question is, L'chara hatach der Iker Sipur. So l'chara hatach der Iker Sipur wegen Avodas Yaakov Avinu als einer von Havos in hein hamarkava adraba bachar shabavos. So we're going to this kind of is a little funky. Hello, welcome, Chana Hinda. because the avos are considered chariots for Hashem, which means that they are like open vessels, open, like beautiful, beautiful vehicles, let's say, because vehicle is a merkava, right? For the light and of Hashem in this world. That's the avos in general, and specifically Yaakov, who was called Bachar Shabbat, means he was the chosen, most, top tier of all avos. He is, what's it called? He is Tiferes, and all of his children were tzaddikim, and so on. So, how could it be? So basically, his work had to have been like the bulk of his work, the bulk of his world, the bulk of his life, the bulk of his experience should have been in Eretz Yisrael, just like it was for his father and grandfather Avram and Yitzchak. Okay, so that's our big question, which is going to connect to the whole idea before about tzaddikim. How could it be that the whole like theme of like Vayeitzei, Vayishlach, are Yaakov outside of Eretz Yisrael and getting married and having children, and also, by the way, let's just remind you for a second, when we talk about Yaakov establishing a home and getting married and having children, that is the establishment of Yaakov's home, which is the establishment of the Jewish people. It's not just like, in general, we take establishing a Jewish home very seriously, but imagine if this is Yaakov Bachar Shel, this is like the you can't get higher than this, and you can't get more, the highest stakes for the world and for the Jewish people is in the establishment of the home of Yaakov, and this all happened in Haran, which is, which is called Haran Af Hashem, which is the fury, all the negative feelings that you can express from Hashem towards Haran. So what's up? So Ice Hay is going to start explaining to us what that means. And would anybody like to read Ice Hay? Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay, moving right along. Okay, so what's the explanation? Al pi hayidua, as myself a similar banim. Okay, so we know that the stories that we learn of our fathers is a lesson, a siman, something that we could and should integrate as lessons into our lives as their children. So that's a very valid reason for asking this question. And so the story, the details, the ins and outs of Yaakov's relationship and contention and what's it called? And friction. There's one more word I'm looking for. Whatever. His experience with Lavan and with Esav, Lavan and Parshas Vayeitzei, Esav and Parshas Vayishlach, they are a lesson and a sign for all of us as children of Yaakov in our personal work in this world, in our personal and obviously communal work. Because I don't think we realize how much our personal work is so intertwined with our communal work. And I think if we knew, we would give it a little more attention. So, mit dem Sipur Batara wegen Yaakov Avinu, Parshas Vayeitzei and Vayishlach, was das ist der erste Mal in Torah wo es Ratzach in Torah mit Arichas Hapratim wegen der Weide in Welt lernt Torah Milashon Hara Ladaras is die Tachlis. Als Tachlis Weide von Aiden is zu Uftan in Welt und lernt im Eis der Steht bei der Pasha. So this is basically what we're saying here is that the story of Yaakov in Vayeitzei and Vayishlach both is the first time in the history of the Torah, the history of the world, and the history of the story written down, where we have data, right? We have a story, we have a narrative that is telling us that there's work in the world, because the work that Avram did and the work that Yitzchak did was mostly in Eretz Yisrael. That's where most of their life was. Obviously, after Avram left his father's home and all that. So this is real life, right? Instagram versus reality. This is the reality part of that. No, I'm kidding. But you know what I mean? There's something very relatable to us as being in this world because of Yaakov's experience in the world. So we're just gonna break down some of the pieces of that it says in the parsha. I will start with Vayeitzei. Vayeitzei Yaakov mi be'er Sheva vayel Harana. Which means, what does this represent? This represents Yaakov leaving Beersheba, the soul leaving, and the soul coming down and entering the body. That is the representation of Vayeitzei Yaakov Ve'el Harana. Beersheba, which would, right, so when we thank Hashem, Neshama Shenasata B'Taharahi, the soul that Hashem has put into us is holy, is pure. It leaves Beersheba. Beersheba is actually from Spheros Habina, and then it comes down to Malchus. So here's our, so it's pretty incredible, like the actual wording. It goes out of Beersheba, Spheros Habina, its source, and then it comes down to Malchus, which is Haran. And then after Malchus, it goes down into the world, into Bia, right? Bria, Yitzira, Siya, it goes even further down into the world. So this is talking about like above the world, right? Beersheba, and then it comes down from, right? So there's Chachma Bina, Svir Sabina, Chachma Bina Das, Chassid, Tveres Netzach Side, and then it goes all the way to Malchus, and then it goes into the world from there, right? And where does it go to? It goes to, right, so there's all the different levels of creation. Ata barasa, ata yitzarta, ata nafachta, right? So Hashem created, Hashem formed, you formed, you created, you formed, and you breathed into me life, which is the neshama, right? We're in our physical elam hazagashmi, v'achomri, the most physical part of the world, most physical world, which is Haran Af Shamakim, which is the place where it brings Hashem a lot of negative feelings. And I honestly am not sure how to translate the word Af, but
So I just want to
strong,
say, Khani,
yeah.
something so beautiful that I heard, I think from Jacobson, that my voice is whatever. I have a horrible cough. So, but anyways, he said that Vayichar Af is in, like we always translate that Hashem's angry, but that actually means that Hashem is full of passion, and that it's not actually anger, that it's like he's so full of passion. It's like when you feel like you love your child so much, or someone you love so much, and they're doing something that you see as disconnecting them from who they really are and from yourself. Like it arouses in you so much love and passion and desire to, like, you know, reconnect or like help them out. It was so beautiful, you know, because it just like made so much sense to something that, like, you know, and it's like, because it doesn't fit with this unconditional loving Hashem that we've come to know, you know?
Yeah.
So
it makes
I really
a lot of
love
sense.
that.
It makes so much sense, because the Shekhinah is in pain because it knows the truth and it can't tell us because we have to figure it out on our own. So there's so much pain over there.
Exactly.
Because, like, hey, go
and
right,
it sees that we're struggling.
Don't go left, don't go here, go there. And it's just watching.
Exactly.
Making all these silly choices. Yeah. Very nice.
And I guess we translate it as like anger, but really it's much greater than that.
Passion.
Yeah. So the passion, exactly. It's strong emotion. Okay, let's just say very strong emotion. Yeah. But in this place of Haran, where the neshama comes down to, it's malek klipas. It is full with klipa and sidracha, which means shells and that kind of distract us from the light of Hashem, right? So v'chazayin malu mastir efelikus, right? So they completely like cover and almost capture the light of Hashem so that we can't see it. And obviously ruchnias and all that. So it hides all that from the neshama. Biznachmer, ze ken rachma latzlan mazik ha'idin. So unfortunately, to the point where it could really cause damage and wreak havoc in all these outside forces can really come and really ruin the vibe of the neshama. And I also want to mention that a lot of these klipas and sitra achara that is described here can also be within us. So I just want to mention that. And then Dikavana in der Yerida Gedela is aber as adaraba id Yaakov zol miskaber zayin iber halamas vesterm von chomers v'gashmis ha'olam charanav adaraba dafka darten eifboyen abayis b'Yisrael biz b'ayfen von mitas shlemis. So it's a little ironic because the point of this great descent is to for Yaakov to actually overcome all these challenges, overcome all these obstacles, to overcome all these, very strong feelings, which feel like they can't be dealt with because they're so strong. These very strong things that are working against him and disconnecting him from spirituality and holiness and Hashem and his neshama. And in that place, in that space, he actually establishes and builds a Jewish home, a Bayis B'Yisrael, to the point where mitasei shlema, which means that every single one of his children, every single one of his progeny was holy and followed in the ways of Hashem, unlike the fathers before him, right? Was durch das is durch dem was sein dik anashama beguf is magala durch kiyam hatar mitzvah sein hanashama und durch dem macht iber die chomrius auf die gashmias und macht von die gashmias und das soll sein batel v'tafel biz akeli auf ruchnias hanashama shalei biz as sein guf hagashmi vertnis achet mit sein neshama. So through this, the neshama, basically through the neshama being in a body, and through doing the mitzvahs, the light of his neshama becomes so a part of the physicality. I don't know how else to say it. Of his first of all, of the things that he has, all of his things become holy, and everything else becomes a vessel for holiness. And to the point where even his physical body becomes a keli, a chariot, a vehicle for Hashem's light in like the most profound way. So there are different ways to access that, and there's different ways for him to get to that point. But as he's moving along, first is the water that he makes a bracha on, and then eventually becomes much more profound than that. So vis is, I'm just going to finish this off here. Vis is Harana. So when it says, this is going to be a little bit of a technical grammatical point here. Why does it say Harana and it doesn't say Vayelech lecharan? Because if it would say to Haran, it would just mean that he went and he's there. But the reason why it says Vayelech Harana is because it's a constant movement towards that space of, darkness and questions and deceit and anger and strong feelings that are out of control. So all these things, the hay, and also the idea that harana, there's a hay after it, is never elam das heißt as durch damit Yitzi Mavar Shaval Harn is Megala in Harn dem hay. Okay, so basically through leaving Beersheba to Haran, we can actually reveal the hay that is in Haran. There is hay. What's hay? The hay of Hashem, the hay of Shem Havaya. So by going to Haran, we can actually reveal the hay of Shem Havaya, Sheba Nevra Elam Haza, because that's the power that created this world. As men der Zet and der Kent as der Nifel, der Kaya Hapayam. We're going to finish off with this. Is Biz as der Nifel is Nach an Eisdruck von dem Kaya Hapayam. So basically, the idea is that, hey, there's Haran, right? So in addition to like constantly moving, instead of saying Vayelech lecharan, it says Vayelech harana. We're also going to take the hay and look at it. What does it mean? When you go from Beersheba to harana, that we can, through the power of what we do, through the power of Beersheba, through the power of Hashem, through the power of Neshama, and obviously through the power of our body, physical body, we can reveal the hay that is in Haran, which is, what is the hay? The hay is the part is the hay that comes from the name of Hashem, and that is the part of the name of Hashem that created the world. So the hay created the world, which means Hashem's power created the world, right? The hay of Hashem created the world, and by everything that we do down here with Torah mitzvahs and finding clarity in the chaos and all that is how we can actually show the power of the creator, Kaya Hapayal Banifal, which means the power of Hashem in the creation in ourselves. Okay, to the point where we can actually see, we can actually visualize what that is. So we can actually visualize the creator and the creation and their connection.
So
yeah,
I'm gonna jump in, share something. It's beautiful. No, it's beautiful. Thank you so much for giving us the Rebbe's words. I mean, it's very validating, right? It's like everything we're talking about that, the goal is not like spiritual transcendence where we, have perfection and stay in like Eretz Yisrael mindset all the time. And we're like, running away from our body, but like Yaakov reached the highest level and through going to Haran and bringing Hashem's Atzmos into that place. It's like, like we have to go. Hashem wants us to go and face our humanness, our darkness, our struggles. Mm-hmm. Like that's where we find Hashem, and that's the ultimate where we have that complete unity. It's like in Haran.
Yeah, and to add to that, it's not only about finding Hashem; it's about having the physical actually be an expression,
elevated. Right. That's how you.
No,
how do you?
It's not just
It's more so like when you think about like a painting.
Physicality is Hashem, and all Haran is really Hashem. So through the neshama going into it, that's how it illuminates that fact. You know what I mean? It reveals that actually it's all Hashem. You know what I mean? It's like that's where he is. He's hiding there. So use your soul to show and to take off all that, all those clippers to reveal that is Hashem himself. You know what I mean? It's like.
Right. And until we face it, then there's that separation and we have to go in it to reveal it.
Right.
Yeah. But it's also like, I almost like visualize like a painting, right? So it's like, it's like a big mess and there's like a bunch of paint and there's a big palette and whatever who knows what's going on. But then when you kind of engage in the process and create that painting, the painting itself is what you want, and that's the end goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like it's trying to express something else. It's expressing itself.
Right.
The painting. It's not like it's expressing like, yeah, maybe it's a still life of something else,
Right.
but it's still its own art.
Right.
So I think that's a really important point. And I love what you said, Nechama, because I really feel like I really want to find more ways to bring more content to the life that we're living, because we know that these things are true in our hearts, but and being able to take the time to plug in and show up for yourself and the world, to actually listen to the Rebbe's words and integrate it and listen with your heart is very, very, very powerful. And I really appreciate your time and trust in that I can help you make that happen. So I
Thank you.
appreciate it
No,
very much.
absolutely. I
just
mean,
wanted to
that's
put one little
Yeah.
one little
No,
example
go
that
ahead.
Yeah.
like to share is that in reality the Torah started from Bereshis, because that is Hashem himself, creation. That's him, and the whole Torah and all the work we've done is to help us. It's like a beautiful painting, and then we have like instructions of how to appreciate the painting. So the Torah is like the manual of how to really understand the painting. And people get lost in the manual, and they think that that's Judy, like that's the whole point, like just, stay in the manual. No. The manual is how to appreciate the painting. The painting is the main thing. So this is, I think, this is what it's saying. It's like Vayelech lecharani is keeping it separate. Charana is recognize that this Torah is helping you see that painting is Hashem, and to appreciate all the beauty. That is the main, the main thing.
Yeah.
That's
right. It's like we always think like the end goal is like to go back to Eretz Yisrael, to be in Eretz Yisrael, to be beyond the body. And it's like, no, look at this. It's like, be in your body, be in your emotions, be in this, wherever you are. It's exactly where you're supposed to be.
That is Hashem. Everything is Hashem, right? To reveal that through the Torah, but to reveal that,
Yeah. So I just want to mention the next ice talks about Vayikra Makem, the Yaakov resting on Har Moriah, which is also a whole fascinating thing, which we're not going to get into right now. But I'm not really sure. Yeah. So
Maybe
anyone have any closing thoughts?
Oh, I was going to say, maybe you could give us like a 2-minute synopsis. But now I just want to say thank you, because my missing link is that I feel what's true, but I don't have all the sources. So I'm very excited about doing this every week. So I could be like, the Rebbe says, I'm excited about being able to do that. But anyways, I would love to hear a synopsis, but I mean, it depends on where everyone else is holding.
Okay. A synopsis of. Okay, let me just clarify, by the way, this week's Parsha, this week's thing is 20 pages long. I didn't even finish it. Just full disclosure here.
No, I'm saying of whatever you said, the next
about
part,
if
you prepared it. If not, don't worry.
We have 2 minutes. We can do it. Vayikra Makam V'Yalan Sham Ki Ba Hashemesh Vayikach Me'avnei Hamakam Vayasem Me'Raishav Vayishkav Makam Hahu. Right. So Yaakov stopped in that place, which is Har Moriah, and because the sun had set, and he took stones from that place and he placed it around his head, and he rested there. Right. So when the neshama comes, when the neshama comes down into this body, right? Ilam, into this world, which is Ilam. Ilam is Milashon Helem, which is there's concealment. And what does it mean? Ki ba hashemesh, that the what does Shemesh represent? Shemesh Umagen Havaya Elikim represents Hashem. So basically there is a concealment of the light of Hashem, which is represented by the sun. So then there is this, one second, and there, Raisha Adam, yeah. So basically, when he comes to that point of like the sun going down, which means that Hashem isn't seen, there's complete darkness, his head and his feet are at the same level because he's laying down, right? So, and more than that, actually, the reason why he put stones around himself is because he was afraid of wild animals. So we're in this very like vulnerable state physically. It's like there's this vulnerability of, first of all, that kind of the whole entire body is on the same level, the head and the feet. So that's one like thing that can be really can really throw things off. And on top of that, there's a major fear of animals, wild animals to come. So that's why we need the stones to protect them. And basically specifically through, so, but don't get like distracted and like, overwhelmed by this fact that this is what it looks like. The picture doesn't look very very clear, very bright. It looks very like confusing and dark. What does that mean? That his, so basically the fact that his whole body is on the same level, the neshama gets drawn down into his body and his entire body at the same level, which means that he's not just getting, the head is getting more of the neshama and the other parts are getting less. It's that they're all at the same vayishkav. Lamal yusa, we're looking at it from the positive side, that the physical guf, the guf hagashmi, becomes one with the neshama. Vet afketan ashlemis nalas yeser be'en arech eich in der neshama common. So kind of going with the same theme before, saying that the physical kind of brings out something greater in the spiritual, specifically when the neshama is manifested in the entire body at the same level. We have access to a much higher completion of the work and of the being that is not incomparable to the what could have been accomplished, or what could have been with a neshama just by itself, or just by itself in the previous way of doing things.
That's so, I know we have to go, but I'm thinking that's so powerful because the message that's coming to me, like what I think is like, when our body's upright, it's like our heads first. So whenever we're in the dark or we're struggling, like we think that like we have to figure it out with our head. It's like, oh, our head's the strong one, right? So it's like, what's coming up for me? What do I need to do? But actually, we access our neshama truth and we get through it in such a powerful, calm, beautiful way with Hashem's help. Like when we actually just surrender, like not be in our head and like let our whole body like rest in Hashem and just let go and be like, I don't need to take charge of this. I'm just going to rest and like let my whole body just be in this. And then we feel Hashem working through us.
Yeah.
So
And
powerful.
to think that like, it's so powerful. And the fact that like, this is such a key part of the journey.
Right.
Like this whole, like it was such a dramatic
like
thing.
Let go and let it go and rest.
Get out of our head and take the whole thing and use that to guide us. And,
I'm just going to count how many psukim.
Just let go and just rest in it and just be in it, and it will be Hashem will take care of it.
Yeah. And that's also, by the way, the Yifka B'Makom is that's where that's the source for davening Ma'ariv. Here, it's literally like a nice amount, like a few psukim, just telling that story. So thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
It might be a silly question. I don't know, but with the rocks, he put the rocks around his head to protect him from the wild beasts. Is there another? I mean, that's kind of like silly, right? Because I mean, a lion. Is there another explanation?
Right.
There's a few.
I think there is
That's
some.
it.
I think it even gets it in the sikha later on. But
Yeah.
it is a good
Oh.
question because like that doesn't really protect you, right? Is that what you're saying? Like,
Right, and I remember learning that there were
Yeah.
more explanations, but I just was wondering.
right. I don't remember because
Rebbe talked
I'm
about
not
it
refreshed
in the
on it.
Sikha,
But
'cause
there's
the-
definitely an
Yeah.
answer
Rebbe-
to that.
Yeah, because the Rebbe's
Yeah.
saying that in the Sikha, and I'm like, really? There's got to be more to that than.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Exactly.
We're
okay,
only
good.
like,
So it'll come
we're
up.
only, yeah. We got through like a fifth of the Sikha today. So there's definitely more questions to be asked. At the same time, I feel like we still want to absorb like what this was. And I'd love to like look what those questions are. Yeah, I appreciate you joining in this space, and, you know, opening, you know, your hands to like the words of the Rebbe. And thank you for trusting me in that. I really appreciate it.
I have
So yeah,
you could shut me up if we need to go, but
yeah.
I have
No.
I have a thought. This is not the Rebbe's words because I don't know what the Rebbe's going to say, but something that's coming to me based on your question. If it means anything to you, I'm not the Rebbe at all. But just like what is coming to me is that, you know, Yaakov was in a situation where he's very vulnerable. He's in a dangerous situation, and he doesn't have really the means or the whatever material he needs to really protect himself. So what I was thinking about is like he put the rocks around him, like he's making a keli, a vessel. He's like, I'm doing everything I can and what I could use. I'm putting the rocks, and then I trust Hashem. And it's like for us, when we're in a situation that's so beyond us and it's so scary, and we're like, how can I do it? How can I do it? And it's like, we can't. We're so limited. We're just human. We cannot do anything without Hashem. So it's like, put out the rocks. You do your part. What can I do today? You know, what tools do I have? What resources? I'm going to do my part, and then Hashem will do the rest. And we can't do it without Hashem. So just something that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I love that, and that's in line with. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I'm just looking ahead, and what rocks is like koich atzmos. Actually, the higher, the lower it is, the higher the light, and so he put that around his head to like sort of make it that this whole atzmos, koich atzmos, is there in his whole body. This is what I think it's saying, and I have to get into it, but it's sort of like it says that Giloi Taikev Hakadusha Avanin Nasa Shave Bechelek Harai Shal Yaakov Bechelek Haguf Shal Yaakov, that this revelation of this Atzmos should be equal by his head and his whole body, because the body already has it. So that's what I'm seeing over here. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah. So it just gives more strength to what we're saying. Yeah.
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 So it's it has a deeper meaning, because to take it literally, it just doesn't,
Yeah.
make sense. Huh?
Wow.
Well, it makes sense based on whatever.